Now, to discuss what is behind this latest escalation between the two sides, let's speak to Palestinian affairs analyst Osama Nazzal. He joins us from Jenin in the occupied West Bank. Osama, thank you very much for joining us here on TRT World. Tell me, how concerned are you that this latest event that took place inside Aqsa Mosque could escalate into an all-out war between the Palestinians and the Israelis?
Yeah, the Israeli occupation government has started its military escalation against the Palestinians weeks ago, and it culminated in its aggression on the Palestinian worshippers inside the holy compound of Al-Aqsa, particularly Al-Qibli Mosque. And as you mentioned, more than 153 Palestinian worshippers were injured, and the majority of them were injured inside the mosque itself. And the last report concerning the Palestinians detained by the Israeli occupation forces amount to 400 Palestinian worshippers, and they are now in the detention centers of Ma'ale ad-Dimim settlement, the Israeli settlement built on the Palestinian land in Jerusalem. So yes, it is an all-out war by the Israeli occupation government against the Palestinian people. As I'm speaking with you now, the Palestinian of my city, the Palestinian citizens of my city of Jenin now are laying to rest 17-year-old Palestinian boy, Shawkat Abid, from a small village called Kufradan near Jenin, as Israeli occupation forces killed this boy today at dawn. So Israel is targeting the Palestinian worshippers in Jerusalem and the Palestinian citizens in all the Palestinian towns and refugee camps,
Right.
as the Israeli, yes.
Osama, but this has become an annual occurrence. This is certainly not something new. In fact, every year in Ramadan, we see such clashes erupt inside Al-Aqsa Mosque compound. Tell me, what do you think that indicates? Does it possibly indicate that the peace talks between the Israelis and the Palestinians have largely failed?
We can't talk about any kind of talks between the Palestinians and the Israelis since the government of former Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was established, as Israel wants to dictate its opinion on the Palestinians vis-a-vis any solution. Israel wants to maintain its occupation for the Palestinian land with Palestinian approval and agreement, something that the Palestinians never accept. So negotiations have been stopped. The Palestinians did their best and they tried with the international community, with the current American administration headed by President Biden, to find an outlet and convince the Israeli government to return to the table of negotiations on the basis of a clear peace parameters guaranteeing all the rights of the Palestinian people, including the right of the Palestinian refugees to return. But the Israeli government, instead of that, escalated its military aggression against the Palestinians last year in Gaza and now in the West Bank, and building a large number of Israeli new colonial settlements and turning the Palestinian towns into cantons and ghettos. So it's impossible to talk about negotiations with such a government with this belligerent mindset that does not recognize any of the rights of the Palestinian people. And the Palestinian presidency issued a statement today warning of the danger of the current Israeli occupation government behavior and taking the region into a theocratic religious war. And the Palestinians have warned of that many times before, but Israel doesn't heed any kind of warning or any kind of advice from its own friends. So the whole situation,
Right.
I see, is getting out of control these days.
All right. Osama Nazzal, thank you very much for talking to us here on TRT World.